Can a spade teach something to an iPhone? Most of us have used one of these within the first 30 minutes upon waking up. We check email, read news stories, read the social media updates, and we love this instant feedback and being up to date with all the things that's happening. My profession as a designer means that when I arrive at the office and brew my morning coffee, I open yet another screen. And depending on the project I work that day, it's either another photo shoot, a brainstorm, or a few more hours in front of a screen again. Depending on the profession, the tool set might vary a little, but the truth is, for most of us, this is the set that we use throughout the day. But then recently, I discovered another set. A set that uses tools like a spade, a watering can, and a few more others used for gardening. A very simple endeavor that I actually hated for the most part of my life. I disliked traveling with my parents to the countryside, with all the chores of weeding and watering, all the dirt and the mosquitoes. But then something happened and something changed. I remember my wife telling me with joy in her eyes how she loved to pick fresh asparagus straight from the garden bed when she was living and studying abroad. And so I got curious, and I wondered, what if I could grow my own asparagus as a gift to my beloved wife every spring? There were only two problems. Number one, I didn't know how to grow anything. Number two, I had never heard about anybody growing asparagus this far north, where winters can easily reach minus 30 degrees Celsius and spring frosts can draw into early June. But I gave it a go, and I got from this at first to this a few years later when I could actually give the gift to my wife. And this started my journey into gardening. And it proved to teach some of the most valuable lessons that I have learned and meet some great people. And the stories I want to share with you today come from three quite old, simple but kind-hearted men that all had one thing in common. They loved to take care of their garden. And it turns out a few old men with a spade and dirt on their hands can teach a thing or two to the smartphone generation, because the tactics, routines, and habits of these three men proved to be more valuable than hundreds of blog posts and best-selling books that I have read over the years. And ever since I remember my grandfather Gunnars, he taught us kids to observe, to pay attention, and notice things seemingly too simple to look for, in a way to cultivate the habit of curiosity. And you can't do gardening without learning to observe and pay attention to the rhythms of nature, because you can't force your will to the nature, but you can notice the change in weather and then act accordingly. Curiosity is what led me to start a garden. It led me to plant the first asparagus, and then it led to ask the next question. What if, besides the conventional crops that most of the gardeners plant in our region, like potatoes and apples, what if we could grow our own watermelons? Or what if we could grow our own baby kiwis? Or maybe mulberries, or even walnuts, or even quinoa, or Inca berries? And it turns out that you can grow all of these and even more. We tried it and we did it, and even though our watermelons first looked like this, eventually they got bigger. But maybe far more important than starting a garden, the habit of curiosity resonated back to my professional life. When I tried my first asparagus, I was around 30 years old, and it was shipped from some faraway country. But for my son, it was when he was 2 years old, and it was straight from our garden bed, and for him it will be something that you can easily grow yourself. And I was so excited to find out about all these things that you can grow here up north that I wanted to find a way to pass on this joy. So I decided to design a little book, a book of ABCs, where each letter is illustrated with a vegetable, herb, or fruit or berry that you can A, grow yourself in our climate, and B, you can eat it. In a way to plant a seed of curiosity into our little children, teach them to explore and to taste things that are commonly considered exotic or even unedible, like it was with the sumac tree, a very beautiful tree that grows almost in every second yard in our country, but for the most part is considered poisonous. And when I finished the book, I sent it out to a few gardening experts and academics and asked for their review. And they came back with a reply that, oh yeah, the book looks beautiful and everything is great, but you should take out the sumac tree because it's poisonous. But I got curious and I started to look around and wondered, is it really so? And I got some confirmation that it is actually edible. And I tried it and I survived. And then I gave it to my 2-year-old son and he survived. And he actually loved it. And then I wrote back to the academics and explained them the situation and told what happened, and they looked into it and came back with a positive reply and said, yes, indeed, it is actually edible, sorry. And this little bit of curiosity saved the poor sumac tree. But as important as curiosity is, it only gets you started. You need more than that. And when I wanted to plant my first walnut tree, I went to the man named Gunvaldis, and he's the man responsible for breeding walnut trees into our northern climate. And the first year, when he started, he planted 700 trees. And over the first winter, 4 of them survived. You would say it's a sure sign to drop the case, try something new, it's okay. But instead, he planted a few more 100 trees next winter, and then again a few more 100 trees. And after a few decades, he has a walnut orchard that produces superior fruit. And this simple lesson reminds me that persistence, not strength or talent, is the most valuable resource that shapes the quality of our lives. And it reminds me to keep going when times get tough and not to give up. And then I asked Gunvaldis, how long will it take for my walnut to grow into a tree and produce fruit? And he replied, 12 years. And it shocked me because I realized that I rarely, if ever, think about my life and projects this far ahead, to wait for 12 years to see the fruit of my labor. And you see, I planted the walnut trees with my other grandfather, Ilmars, a man who is 88 years old and still travels to his piece of land to tend his garden and still climbs trees. But maybe even more important than climbing trees at this age, which still is a remarkable act, is that we spent 2 days side by side planting walnut trees, or at least one of us was working while the other one was taking selfies. And if you do the math, and he's 88 years old and the trees take 12 years to mature, then it will set him at 100 years of age when that happens. Which means that he might not be around when the trees produce the first fruit. In a world that's dominated by instant gratification, a trait that is willing to wait this far ahead to see the fruit, or even do things that will pay fruit only after you have passed your time on earth, is such a rare and valuable trait. When I finish my day at the office and close all the screens, and for a few hours trade my smartphone for a spade, I am reminded of these 3 men, their way of life and their simple lessons to keep the fire of curiosity alive and to stick to my ideas and projects with the persistence of a simple walnut breeder, and to think and act so that those who come after us may find joy in the fruit of our labor. Thank you very much.